Hey, welcome back to Women in Sales Leadership. I'm Amy Evans. I'm rerunning some of the best episodes. I've handpicked them for you, the most popular, the most downloaded, and I'm making them available in this 3-episode rerun package just for you. Even if you've heard one of these before, I promise you, you are going to hear something different this time. You're not the same person the first time you listened. I hope you enjoy. What intention do you want to set for the conversation that we're about to have?
I just want to inspire someone, right?
Mm-hmm.
That is my hope. And every time I kind of talk about my story, I also get clarity from it.
Yeah.
So inspire someone, inspire myself, ground myself, and just have a good time with you.
Let's do it. Yes, we're not going to cut that out. We're going to keep that. Okay, beautiful. We'll keep it all. So here we are. Welcome back to Women in Sales Leadership. I'm your host, Amy Evans. I'm the founder and CEO of Amy Evans Sales Leadership Coaching. And today's episode is especially close to my heart because we are diving into something that every single woman or many, many women in sales leadership feel. And but very few of us get a chance to really talk about it in an honest way. And these feelings are about boundaries, burnout, motherhood, and this constant pressure to be everything to everyone. And my guest today brings both receipts and real talk. Erica Ettore is a top performing global sales leader at Workiva and the transformational leader behind one of their highest growth businesses. She has tripled win rates. She has scaled her organization from 5 to 15 sellers. She was recently named Manager of the Year. Her career began on Wall Street, working with some of the world's most recognizable brands, and before she moved into tech. And today, she leads a global team that spans Europe, LATAM, and the US. And she has this blend of really calm confidence and sharp strategic execution that I think you're going to pick up in a minute when you get to hear from her. But what I love most about Erica and why I invited her to be on the show is her honesty about what it takes to do all of that while raising her son, protecting her well-being, and creating boundaries that actually work for her in real life. So this is a conversation about leadership. It's about identity. It's about motherhood. It's about systems that allow women to perform at a really high level without sacrificing themselves. Erica, welcome
Woo!
to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I didn't need to put blush on today. I'm already blushing. Thank you so much for that intro. It's phenomenal.
Well, it's all true. It's all true. Yeah. Well, we're going to dive in. I'm so glad you're here. I'm so glad you're here. So for my listeners who are, of course, meeting you for the first time, how would you describe your role at Workiva and the team that you lead today?
Oh, wow. I'm having a monumental day for my team. We had an incredible team meeting today, which I'm still feeling the adrenaline from, and I'm very much on a high from it. So I love this question. So the way that I would describe my team in particular is they're very much a high performing team. We have a culture embedded in and a philosophy around a you versus you type of culture, right? So you are really laser focused on trying to be the best version of yourself day in and day out. We have a team of accountability, so really focused on, you know, the accountability is a two-way street. My team also holds me very much accountable, just like I hold them accountable. So I am very much thankful for them. Um, and that's really how I would kind of describe the culture of both me and my team.
Yeah, I love it. So what about the role that you have? Talk about that.
Sure. So I am a solution specialist, sales leader, right? So what we do is we partner very closely with the account executives, and I am a part of a matrix model, right? So it's a matrix environment where we are specialists. We have expertise in a particular use case that is provided by Workiva to our
Mm,
clients.
uh-huh.
And my team sells to global enterprises. Our solutions name is actually embedded with the name global or multi-entity, right, for multinational corporations. And my team is responsible for driving and execution of multi-entity reporting sales across the globe. So
Wow.
essentially, my team and my role is really embedded in trying to drive high performance amongst that use case, right? Delivering best in class service and delivering best in class client experience to our clients, as well as our internal stakeholders being a part of a matrix environment. I always tell my team, the account executives, every other support function around you is also a client. Treat them as
Mm.
such, right?
Mhm.
Because you will get the most value out of them, they will feel the most appreciated, and when people feel appreciated, they show up in a very unique way. So, that is really the philosophy of my role, right, and the goal of my role. The role has evolved very much drastically over the past 3 years. I went from superstar stellar to, like, I was a team of 1. My leadership had invested in me as a person to kind of build this team out. And then over the course of the past 3 years, tripled the team size, tripled the win rates, right? We have a lot of accolades behind us, but the role has drastically evolved over the past several years. Right now, I'm really in strategy mode where I'm laser focused on not this quarter. While I am concerned about this quarter, I am always like 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters ahead and taking on more of that strategic view, where earlier on, it was like tactical, "What's going on with this deal? How can I help? Where are their weak points? Where is there risk in the deal?" So over time, the role has drastically evolved, but where I'm currently at is really laser focused on strategy, and also culture is incredibly important to me.
Ooh, yes. Yes. When you think about it, what are you most proud of? Like, what's a standout when you look at your team's evolution? Because you just described evolution right there. What are you most proud of when you think about how that your team has grown and evolved?
So there is a gentleman on my team who was my first hire, who also took a little bit of a risk coming to my team. He's based in London. I'm obviously based in New York City. And the first conversation I had with him, he's like, "Erica, I'm interested in being a manager." I'm like, "Well, this is not a manager role."
Yeah.
So I appreciate the career aspirations, but like, if you stay with me, if you prove yourself to be a good mentor to others on the team, if you also prove to be a high performer, we can look at potentially making you a manager. In July, he got promoted to manager. He is now building out the second, evolution of the team, which is super exciting because we have expanded quite drastically in Europe on a percentage basis. So he is somebody that I'm incredibly proud of. Watching him, grow and evolve is something that I've seen, with my own eyes, and, something that I am looking to see the next evolution of him.
Yeah.
I've had people on my team present main stage sales kickoff. I've had another gentleman on my team bring in the largest multi-entity reporting deal in a single transaction from a corporate client that happened last quarter, which is something I'm incredibly proud of to watch, right? Just being on the sidelines for it. I've taken, several folks out of inside sales roles and brought them into enterprise sales jobs. Watching their evolution has been an honor and a pleasure for me. And every single time I watch somebody on my team grow, I myself grow.
Yeah.
Um, so it's incredibly exciting. There's a little bit and piece of every single player that I have on my team that I actually learn so much from by watching their evolution in real time. And it's also quite funny that like not everybody sees their evolution, right? They
Ah.
don't feel it. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, let's take a step back. Let's look at you a year and a half ago. So that's what I would say I'm probably the most proud of.
Yeah. That change happens so incrementally, right? It happens in micro movements of like days and weeks, and the pace of that everyone's moving at is so fast that just reflect and slow down and think about, okay, 12 months ago, where was I? And 12 months before that, where was I? And to slow down and acknowledge the journey and the accomplishments along the way. Yeah,
Absolutely.
that's
Absolutely, and
powerful.
yeah, and it's easy to say it and harder to do it, right? You have to be
Mm,
super intentional about it, right?
yeah,
So coming back to your initial question, like, what are your intentions? Like, you have to be very thoughtful about how you're going, like, how you're kind of viewing your own progress and progression as an individual. But yeah, it's especially when you have a high performance team, most people have the hunger of like, okay, that's great, but like, what's next, right? So
yeah.
completely agree with you.
Okay. So when you and I first met, in case anybody can't hear, in case anybody hasn't noticed, you mentioned being a Jersey girl.
Self-proclaimed.
What what does being a Jersey girl mean to you in your leadership? How does that show up?
Yeah, so I I work for a company that's headquartered in Ames, Iowa, right? So a lot of our staff either, is from Ames, is from that area, right? They're very Midwestern. I work for probably one of the nicest companies on planet Earth, right? In terms of the overall culture. And, you know, I can authentically show up as myself at work, which is quite unique and lovely at the same time. Tying that back to being a Jersey girl, I am incredibly direct and I am incredibly passionate. And the thing about being from New Jersey or representing where you're from is just being very grounded in who you are, agnostic of if you're coming from, New Jersey, New York City, Atlanta, right? Just being incredibly like proud of where you are from. But the thing that I would also say about people from New Jersey is, and me myself, is I like to represent where I'm going harder
Mm,
than where I came from. And I
yeah.
think that's a part of the philosophy about people from New Jersey, because if you take a look around the state, it's really not the most lavish state, to put it in a nice way, but it is a very proud state. So I would just say I'm incredibly proud of where I come from. Culturally, yes, I'm very direct. I talked with my hands probably a little bit more than I should. I do have a thick accent, I've been told. I don't hear it, but yeah, I would say it's just being very proud and grounded from where you're coming from to where you're going.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. I do. You shared that you were a waitress at 13. Is that right? 13? Yeah?
Yes.
And
Yeah.
so your path from being a waitress to Wall Street, these are all W's. I'm just now realizing it as I'm saying it out loud. Waitress, Wall Street to Workiva. And that's a really incredible path. What were some of the milestones that really shaped you on that way
Yeah,
of becoming the leader that you are today?
I have never thought about it like that. So thank you again, Amy, for that question. You're always so inspirational with even the way that you ask the questions. Um, but
So kind.
but I would say like the thing that I was always centered around is like, how can I be the best, right? I come from a first generation American household, right? I was the first
Mm.
college graduate on my mom's side of the family, not on my dad's side. But I I have like a hunger for like, ensuring that I'm either like the best at what I'm doing or trying to be the best, right? And that is the linchpin that I think exists between all of the W's, right? From waitress to Wall Street to Workiva,
Yeah.
is this hunger and this passion to be the absolute best that I possibly can be. And it's not a function of I want recognition or anything like that. Obviously, that helps. But I just want to represent and make people proud of the overall accomplishments that we have. And I would honestly say, again, like, that is the linchpin that exists, right? Like, obviously, as I was a waitress, like, really also focused on customer service. It was always customer facing, every aspect of my job, which obviously brought the biggest smile to my face. But outside of, like, the tangential things that we could kind of stitch together, I would just say it's like really that hunger to just be the best that I possibly can be for the team around me.
I think that's so beautiful, and it really says a lot about you. You're a high performer, and you have a standard of excellence that you wanna deliver because it's just you actually derive joy from it. I mean, that's what I'm hearing is that you enjoy it.
Very
It's
much.
fun for you. You can't do this kinda work if it's not fun. Um, I was thinking when you were talking about being a waitress, I was like the world's worst waitress. I feel sorry for any tables. I apologize anyone who, I served back in the early 2000s when I was working 2 jobs for a while. Um, but but to have that focus on customer service and be that, like, face of the business, that hasn't changed, has it? Being a leader. Yeah, being in sales and being a leader, it's still that role. I'm curious to go back to the moment and, like, the time period of when you made the transition from being an individual contributor to being a leader, and what changed for you when you had to step up and take on that level of leadership and shift in that
Yeah.
way.
That was probably like going from waitress to Wall Street was probably easier than going from individual contributor to manager, quite honest. And I know that sounds silly, but like, as there is no playbook, right? That really, that, hey, you should be letting go of this. Hey, you should be holding on to this. Hey, this is what you should be focused on, right? When you're running a deal, like, and it's all hands on deck, like, as a high performer, you know that deal inside and out, right? And that's your pride. That is what you represent. The better you know it, the better handle you have on it. It represents a lot.
Mm,
And as a leader, right? And as a new leader, I was like, okay, well, I just have to do this times 10 or times 20 or right? And that's how you lead. And in fact, I was very much humble during the transition because I'm like, this doesn't scale. This is gonna drive me into the ground if I'm thinking that this is what a being a first, line manager is, because it in fact is not gonna get me where I need to go, right? So I would say, like, letting go was probably the biggest
yeah.
area of transition that I needed to make from individual contributor to manager, and it needed to happen quickly, right? Because I was also scaling, establishing, you know, a brand, a team. It's multifaceted. And I was running it at a global scale. It wasn't like I was handed a team. I had to build it from the ground up.
Mhm.
So that also was like, well, this is my baby. I'm not going to let it go. Right. And then over time, like, and I mean a very quick time, it was like, all right, well, I am going to empower you as somebody on my team to run this deal. These are the 3 updates that I want. This is the structure at which I want it, right? And really starting to let go because that then freed up mental bandwidth, time, that freed up parts of my day, right? It
Yeah.
allowed me to get mental clarity as well. So it was also multifaceted, but I would say that transition from IC to leader is incredibly humbling, especially if you're going from being like like one of the top performers to a manager. I
Yeah.
was like, "Whoa." Right?
Yeah, I'm not surprised to hear you say that. And I it that that journey, it's a mindset shift. And what I think is so misleading about mindset is that people can mistakenly think that mindset shifts are easy, and I would submit that mindset shift is the hardest work to do on your professional and personal development. It's not like a light switch that you just like walk in the room and say, "Whoop, I'm a manager. I'm a leader now. I'm not an individual contributor anymore, and I have to think in a totally different way than I've ever had to think before." It's a moment of complete and total adjustment, and that description you gave of you go from being an expert or in a mastery level to being like completely lost for a little while. Yeah, yeah. That's it's a testament to you that you've continued to grow and have more and more leadership, trusted to you, that you got through that challenge and are
Mhm.
excelling. Um, let's talk about motherhood. Let's shift to there and talk about being a working mom in sales leadership, something I have some familiarity with, although I'm at the tail end now, Erica. Like, my kids are gonna be out of the house, and I'll start crying if I start to talk about it too much, but, like, they're gonna be gone and off to college in, like, 3 years,
Oh,
which everybody says it goes by in a flash, and I'm just gonna say it's true. Um, but what happened about your experience? Because you're in a different moment of motherhood. And what was the moment when you're a mom and you're a sales leader? What was the moment when you realized that you just couldn't keep working the way that you were working and doing the way you were doing before your son was born?
yeah. I so I kept up at the same pace. Like, I am of the type of mindset, like, bring it on, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Mhm.
and I will handle it. Um, and becoming a mom is incredibly humbling.
Uh,
Because the day doesn't you no longer own the day now owns you just by default as being a mom, right? Especially with
yeah.
a newborn. When I transitioned over to Workiva from my previous role, I had a 3-month-old. So I had a fairly young child at that point. I was
Mhm.
just coming off of my maternity leave, and then I was segueing into a net new industry for me, a net new sales cycle for me, right? And as my role evolved with Workiva, my son also evolved, right? Because as a mom, you know what your son or daughter needs at 3 months old is vastly different than what they need at 4.5, right? 5. And you have much different problems than I have, right? And your day looks much different than mine does. So I luckily have an incredible team around me, right? I have a great partner. I have a very helpful nanny, right? But like at the end of the day, a lot of the responsibility still falls on me, right? And
Yeah.
that is again coming back to that self-made pressure, right? Whether it's through high performance through work, whether it's I want to be the best mom, I want to be the best partner, I want to be the best at my job, I want to be the best friend. There is some sort of innate pressure that exists, right? And I think over time and as Joey has gotten older, I'm like, wow, like to your point, like okay, like, I thought the 4-month-old phase was gonna last forever. Now he's 1.5, right?
Right.
Now
Right.
he's 3. Like, where did
Right.
that go, right? So, really refocusing and recentering my energy because I'm like, I'm a physically here mom, but I'm a mentally absent mom, right? And how can I make that and that was really where I was like, "Wow, something needs to change," right? Like and it
Mm.
it wasn't anything about my job, it wasn't about my son, it was about the way that I was looking at things, and the way that I was tackling things, and the way that I was handling things, and look, it's a work in progress as everything else is, I will always be a work in progress,
Mhm.
um, but I would say, like, really taking a step back and, like, kind of I don't wanna say hitting rock bottom because that's a little dramatic, but it was like a realization of like, wow, I am like, I can't keep up at this speed because I wanna be the best at everything, and I'm not being good at what feels like anything.
Yeah. So say more though about like the stuff that you were noticing was happening when you were in that like uncomfortable spot where you recognized that you were trying to do it all and there was
Sure.
that wasn't working for you.
Yeah, I'm like, I missed an event at Joey's school. I didn't even know it was happening, right? I'm sitting on the couch and I'm like just kind of doom scrolling on my phone versus being present. I'm, it was just a series of like micro events that I was like, this is not the mom that I want to show up for my son, right? Which
Mm,
is the most important thing and the most precious thing that exists in my life, right?
yeah.
So I would say like kind of going through those motions and just seeing like, I wanna be the mom that's, like, there and shows up and is, like, the biggest cheerleader and, you know, the cool fun mom that's, like, also the working mom and, like, the multifaceted mom, but, like, I would just say I missed a couple of events and I was like, "This cannot happen again." Right?
Mm,
And then also just being like, again, doom scrolling instead of being like, "Joey, how was your day?" Like, making eye contact with him, showing him that he's like the most important thing to me. So I would just say like a couple little things happened like that. And I was like, this is no more, right? Like
yeah.
this needs to stop.
Yeah. So how did you make that shift though? Like how did you start to give yourself permission to be able to prioritize Joey and in essence really your own well-being along the way?
Yeah. I would say like I've done over the past 3 years countless amounts of introspective work.
Mm,
Right? And taking a look inside of like what makes me happy, what brings me to how can I propel myself, right? Like just looking at myself from different points of view, different angles,
yeah.
like how I react to certain things, how certain things affect me, how my day sometimes gets derailed if something minimal happens, like really just looking at myself from so many different angles and perspectives over the past 3 years has been incredibly helpful for me and, uh, took a ton of work, took a ton of time to get where I am, and I still am a work in progress like I had mentioned earlier, but really just taking a step back and like, "Okay, well, this like, how do I view myself? Well, does that bring me joy? Right? Is that, like, helping me mentally, physically, emotionally? Right?
Mm,
And just looking at different facets of my life from that perspective and being brutally honest with myself. Again, coming back to being a Jersey girl, like, it could be very easy to be direct to Amy, but it's another thing to be incredibly direct to yourself, right? And point out areas, right?
yeah. Oh,
Right, and point
yeah.
out areas that you can get better and you can improve, right?
Mhm. Yeah. The honest look in the mirror is tough. It's tough. And you know, I don't know a single leader out there who, the way that we realize that it's time for a change is that things are off course. That's how you know, right? Like nobody's just sailing along smooth the whole time. Like I don't know anybody that that's life is like that for. And so, it's like maybe it's like a wake up call chance that we get where it's like, oh, this is not what I wanted. This is never what I dreamed of. uh, all the signs that help you realize it's not working for you, the anxiety, the stress, the feeling out of alignment with your values and what you want for yourself and your life and your family and your son and your relationship with him. Um, it's those moments that are educational for us because they show us what we don't want. And it's always met with a choice where you get to say, am I going to choose something else or I'm going to choose to keep doing this and getting the same result over and over again? Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. And I would just say, like, coming out of being in a high performance mindset, like, you're almost like, "I have to be right all the time," right? Like, you
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
equate the 2 to one another, and it's like
Mm,
that mindset, like only gets you so far, right? Like, and until you can shift that and kind of look within, it becomes incredibly hard to kind of elevate yourself to get to the next level. You kind of stay stagnant if you stay in that limbo period almost.
Yeah. I think what you're describing is something I talk about a lot with, the leaders that I work with, and that's, like, this concept of, like, we don't have to have it all perfect all the time. We're allowed to run experiments and try things and see if they work for us, and as long as you keep looking at it that way, then, like, the pressure to be excellent doesn't change because it's a desire that you have to fulfill. You're like, I want to do excellent work because I feel good about that. And I know I'm capable of it. And I enjoy pushing myself. And right, it fills you, and can fill you up to achieve in that way. But to also acknowledge that, there will be times when you're going to have to pivot and change direction and try something and see if it works. Yeah. You have a really great operating rhythm that you're running in your business. Um, let's talk about that because a big part, I, it's so easy to talk about these changes, and the real thing that makes a difference I've noticed is habits and what do you do every day and what do you do every week? Because it's when you get in those habits that you can start to get that alignment. And you have a great number of habits that you do. I'd love for you to share them. What's your weekly structure? Like
Sure.
Sunday night, what are you
Yeah,
doing?
I'm
Yeah.
just pulling up my notes, but yeah, I would say my week starts with Sunday night, really taking a look at like, you know, looking at Joey's calendar, which is my number one thing, and then
Mhm.
overlaying that with my calendar, right? And moving things around to kind of shift. And then
Yeah.
if you take a look at your calendar on a Sunday night, it's like, all right, you're getting into gear, number 1, and number 2, nothing should surprise you that's gonna be coming up throughout the course of the week, right? I also remove anything that I'm like, "All right, I don't need to be on this. My team's got this," right? Like, empowering them also to say, "Work with this manager, like, you're on the right course," etcetera, right? And just clearing out some space within my calendar because, as you know, it's easy to be on calls from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m., right?
Uh, I wanna ask a question there,
Sure.
Erica. Like, how do you tell? How do you know if it's a call you need to be on or not? And this is especially important for my leaders who might be early in their leadership.
Sure. I think, right, it comes back to the evolution of my role and the evolution of my team, right?
Mhm.
So when I had first started the team, I was like, coming back to my earlier point, I want to be on everything. Tell me what's going on, right? Like, you said the wrong sentence on that call. Like, right? To no, 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 no. You have the most incredible rhythm. I am not gonna add any value to that call, right? And, like, there's a level of trust that exists across the board, right?
Mm,
I trust that you're gonna represent our team properly, and I trust that you have ownership of this, and I trust that you're gonna represent the company in a certain way, right? And I would say over time, and I have some reps on my team that are like, "Well, you'd be a great safety net." I'm like, "You got this, right? This is yours to own." You will
yeah.
also gain so much more confidence if you are owning it, right?
Yeah.
So, really just, like, kinda taking a step back and looking at that evolution, right? And some people are at different points in their career, and some people are at different points within their evolution on the team and culturally understanding how we like to show up to meetings. So, every person looks a little bit different, but, empowering folks to kinda take off the training wheels and just get off to their own races is, like, my biggest point, right? And again, it comes back to that letting go, letting go, letting go. You can
Yeah.
always repair, right? We're not saving lives here. We're running we're running pristine sales cycles, but we're not doing a lobotomy, right? So like
Yeah.
can come back, we can look back, and we can do repair. So like which rarely happens, right? Like if that happens once a quarter, that would be a lot. But I would just say like, you know, the evolution of the team and the evolution of the role have changed drastically. So, you know, just having confidence in like your own leadership and what you've instilled in the team, I would say is step number 1, right? Like have confidence in what you've embodied throughout your entire culture and your team throughout
Yeah.
the coaching.
I think one of the strong suits you shared with me is that you block personal time and you don't let people book over it.
That is in fact true.
Tell me, how do you do that? Because it's so easy. So easy to just, oh, just that one call. Oh, that one meeting. How
Yeah.
do you do that?
So it comes back to self-respect, right? And like
Mm.
one of the main things that my company and like really instills in folks at the company is respect. So you cannot respect others if you don't respect your own time, right?
Mm.
And I cannot show up for my team in the way that I want to show up for them if I don't block off an hour here, an hour there, right? It adds up and nobody wants anybody running on fumes, including myself, right? So it comes back to a lot of self respect. I, I had started to see myself kind of like losing control over my calendar, and a few C-level executives at my company had given me the advice of like, Erica, everybody has time blocks on their calendar. Respect your own time. I'm like, oh, well, if I just did this one more meeting, like one more deal might close, right? And again, it's taking on the long game philosophy, not only the long game for yourself, but the long game for your team, the long game for the company, right? And really understanding that, like, what rituals make you show up as the best, Erica? What
Yeah.
rituals make you
What
show up?
are they? What are your rituals?
So I have quite a few of them.
Is there an ice bath involved? I wanna know.
Some days,
Oh,
I,
seriously. I was
yeah,
kidding.
I'm not. I do sauna 5 days a week. I do red light 5 days a week. I
Wow.
box twice a week. I do yoga twice a week. I am very much into self-care. I like it just helps me mentally and physically and spiritually. Like it helps me on
Yes.
multiple different fronts. Um, so I am a big self-care girl. I there is a cryo dome that I go into a couple of times. It's not my favorite. I don't like being cold.
Maybe I need to try it. I'm, like, laughing about it. I'm like, I don't know. I'm scared. I'm just gonna admit it. Like, I'm a little nervous.
Yeah,
I grew up in Wyoming where it was like every day was a cryodome outside during the winter.
yeah. You're like, "I lived it. I don't need any more of it."
I moved away from that for a reason.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I prefer the heat, but I do have a lot of rituals. I have a girls' dinner tonight, with some of my friends in town, right, which is
Mm,
very important to me, the social aspects of it in a remote culture, and it's
yeah.
something that I kind of overlooked for a little bit. Like, I am an extrovert, I need to get out there, whether I'm not in client meetings, etcetera, I need to be out with either my friends, couple friends, Joey's, parent friends, etcetera. So, I am very respectful of, like, my time and what I need to show up for myself as well.
Mm, that's amazing. That
Thank you.
really well done. That's
Thank
awesome. That's really awesome. I could have used your help about 15 years ago. I wasn't doing a great job with any of that stuff. Um, I you've talked so much about, having a structure, and, I think what I'd love to do is have you share, like, there is a woman who's listening right now who feels like her sales quarter is running her life. What's the first thing you would say to her to help her begin to climb out of that?
Sure. I always tell my team, never let a quarter define you, never let a year define you. You'll have bad years and you'll have good years. And you need to stay incredibly balanced because your good years doesn't make you the best seller in the world and your bad years don't make you the worst seller in the world. Right? So you
Mm,
have to have a balanced mindset, right? You can't get too high and you can't be too low. You need to be in the middle in
yeah.
terms of longevity. And once you're able to kind of mentally accept that, And it stinks, right? Because when you're crushing it and, like, you're super high off of adrenaline, all of the endorphins, etcetera, it's amazing, right? And I still get
Yeah.
like that. So, like, I try to balance it out because, I do have bad days too, right? And I do have bad quarters too, right? So balancing that out to be incredibly level, I would say is the biggest piece of advice that I have. And it's mind
Mm,
over matter, right? And once you're able to perfect that, I think then things become easy because that gives you clarity. And when you're stuck in the mental rut, it's incredibly hard to have mental clarity. And to get out of that rut, you need mental clarity, right?
yeah.
So I would just say again, a good quarter doesn't define you and a bad quarter doesn't define you. You can elongate that to a year on both sides of the trade. But yeah, that would be like, girl, grasp that.
Yeah.
And then, like, put your blush on, put your lipstick on, get your notepad, and, like, let's get to business.
I love that. Uh, Before we close, what are like the first couple boundaries you would advise th-
Sure.
this woman listening right now, like feeling like, I don't know, how can I start to do this because it feels like too much
Yeah.
already.
So don't expect everything to change at once because if everything changes at once, nothing changes, right?
Yeah.
It's not sustainable. So what I would say is start with a Sunday. Take a step
Yeah.
back, look at your week, right? Coming up on short weeks and looking at a Sunday makes it much easier, right? Like
Mm,
if there's a holiday, if there's PTO, if there's an event, etc. But taking control of your week starting on Sunday, I would say is absolutely paramount, right? Taking a
yes.
step back and just starting there, right? And then being very thoughtful and intentional about making that Sunday bleed into Monday, right? In terms of like, all right, I know myself, if I have over 6 to 7.5 hours worth of meetings in a day, by the seventh and a half hour, I'm like, "Guys, my brain is not even functioning. We might as well not even be having this meeting," right? And then like, doing the work to understand where you can maximize the day, right? I
Mhm.
I operate the best between, like, 6 and 8 in the morning.
Yep.
So I get a ton done in the mornings by myself, and that's where I get work done. That's when I get personal things done. But it's taken me several years to come to that point of like, where do I operate at like maximum, like capacity is not the right word, but like what's best for me? Like, how do I operate best? And like, that is work that I would, you know, challenge anybody to do because it takes a little bit of time. But once you get there, like, your future self is very thankful for you doing that work.
I think that's where we're gonna leave it. Erica, wow. Thank you. Thank you so much for bringing so much honesty, so much clarity, so much heart and authenticity to this conversation. What I love about all of this is that you have shown other women how you can still be ambitious. You can lead a global team. You can build a really high performing organization without sacrificing your well-being, without sacrificing, the other roles that you have in your life as a partner and as a parent, and as a human, as a friend. And you've shown us that the boundaries just really, they aren't just protective, they're what make that high performance so possible. And so for everyone listening, if you want to connect with Erica, how can they find you? What's the best way? LinkedIn?
Find me on LinkedIn.
Beautiful. And if you want to connect with Erica, learn more about her and her work at Workiva, you'll find links in the show notes. And if you're a first line sales leader who's ready to step into your second line leadership role, increase your income, and build a career that really gives you both authority and autonomy, you can join me, Amy Evans, in upcoming workshops or learn more about coaching at amyevanscoaching.com. And I want to thank you so much for listening to today, and we'll see you next week.